She showed up at my door with nothing but a duffel bag and tear-streaked cheeks. Said she had nowhere else to go. Her voice cracked when she asked if she could stay for just a few nights, just until she figured things out. I hesitated for a second, but something in her eyes, maybe the way they silently begged for safety, made me nod. That small nod, it changed everything. If only I knew what was coming, I might have closed the door instead. Her name was Erica. We weren't strangers. We had history, though distant. She was my friend back in college, wild, spontaneous, the kind of person who could make the most boring Tuesday feel like a movie scene. We hadn't spoken in years, but when she reached out of the blue, I didn't think twice. Maybe I should have. The first few days were fine. She helped around the apartment, cooked dinner a couple times, laughed at my lame jokes. It felt nice, honestly. Like having a friend again in a life that had grown way too quiet. My girlfriend, Amia, was staying out of town for work, and the silence had started to wear on me. Erica filled that space with ease. But then, slowly, things started shifting. Subtle things. She'd borrow my clothes, say she was just cold. She'd invite herself along when I had plans. One night, I found her asleep in Mia's hoodie, curled up on the couch like she owned the place. I laughed it off. Told myself she was just being comfortable. I didn't want to seem paranoid or rude. But something didn't sit right. Soon enough, Mia started calling less. She sounded different. Distant. I blamed the travel, the stress. But then, she stopped calling altogether. And that's when I noticed Erica was always near my phone. Always in the room when I got a message. One evening, I came home from work to find Mia's favorite photo frame shattered on the floor. Erica said the cat knocked it over. We don't have a cat. That was the moment my gut screamed at me. Something was seriously off. I started digging, retracing conversations, checking call logs, email activity. What I found made my stomach drop, messages sent from my account to Mia. Ugly, hurtful things I never said. Things that made her leave. And all of it traced back to one IP address, my own. I confronted Erica. Her face didn't flinch. She just smiled, like she was proud. That night, everything fell apart. But it didn't end there. Because what she did next, what she really came for, wasn't just to ruin my relationship. It was bigger. Colder. Calculated. And it left me with nothing. Not the apartment. Not the job. Not even my name. This was more than betrayal. This was war dressed as friendship. And you won't believe how far she went. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind kept running in circles, trying to understand how someone I once trusted could turn my life upside down. I kept replaying every moment since she arrived, her tone, her body language, the way she always acted so grateful. But now it all felt rehearsed, like I was watching a performance that I didn't even realize I'd bought tickets for. I met Erica during freshman orientation. She was the type who made fast friends and even faster enemies. She had this charm, this magnetic pull, but there was always drama orbiting around her. Back then, I thought it was just bad luck. Now I wonder if that was just who she was all along. After college, we drifted apart. Different cities, different lives. I never thought our paths would cross again. When she messaged me a few months ago saying she was going through a tough breakup, I didn't think twice about offering help. She said she was sleeping on a friend's couch, then a car, then nowhere. I felt bad, how could I not? She knew exactly which strings to pull. Told me I was the only one who ever truly saw her. I guess I wanted to believe that I was helping someone who just needed a break. But behind the tears, there was something colder brewing. I started to notice how she asked strangely specific questions, about my job, my schedule, even my online banking habits. At the time, I brushed it off. But now I realize, she was collecting information the whole time. Something about it didn't add up, like she came to my place with a plan already in motion. And now, the more I look back, the more I see it. She didn't just need shelter. She needed access. And I handed her the keys without a second thought. I started checking things more closely. My laptop was acting weird, pages open I didn't remember visiting, passwords suddenly invalid. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe I forgot. Maybe I clicked something by accident. But then, late one night, I caught her sitting in front of my screen while I pretended to sleep. She didn't even flinch when I stirred, just calmly closed the lid and whispered that she was checking the weather. Who checks the weather at 2 a.m.? I didn't say anything that night, but I started taking photos of things, screenshots, timestamps, even my own messages, like I was building a case. Because deep down, I knew. This wasn't just paranoia anymore. This was real. Meanwhile, I started hearing from mutual friends. Little things. Hey, Erica messaged me asking about you, or she said you were having a breakdown. Confused and embarrassed, I'd laugh it off, but the pattern was clear. She was planting seeds, rewriting my story while I was still living in it. She even told one of my coworkers I'd been stealing ideas at work. A week later, I was called in for a surprise performance review. The worst part? She made it all look so innocent. Around others, she was sweet, helpful, even funny. She baked cookies for my neighbors. Walked the elderly lady's dog downstairs. Everyone loved her. No one would have believed me if I said she was quietly pulling the strings behind my back. It was like watching a slow-motion crash, and no one could see it but me. And all the while, her stuff slowly took over the apartment. Her clothes in my closet. Her name on packages. Her voice on the intercom. It didn't feel like my place anymore. And honestly, I wasn't sure if my life was even mine anymore. One evening, I came home to find my apartment door slightly open. My heart dropped. I stood there for a few seconds, listening, nothing. The lights were off, everything quiet. I stepped inside carefully, calling out her name. No answer. My laptop was gone. The drawers in my desk were pulled open. Even my safe, the one only I knew the code to, was unlocked. That's when it hit me. She didn't just guess the password. She knew it. I must have told her at some point, without realizing. That chill ran through my spine again. I tried calling her, but her phone was off. Her clothes were gone, her bag missing. But one thing was left sitting neatly on the kitchen counter, my bank statement. Printed out. Highlighted. And on the last page, a withdrawal I didn't make. Thousands of dollars gone. I couldn't breathe. I rushed to my room, flipped open my backup drive, only to find it wiped clean. Every document, every file. Everything I'd ever worked on, gone. She hadn't just stolen my money, she'd erased my work, too. My projects. My photos. My entire digital footprint. Like I never existed. I checked my work email. Locked out. My social media? Suspended for suspicious activity. She'd gone full invasion. Not just in my home, but in my identity. I was being digitally erased in real time. Then, as I sat there trying to piece everything together, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Just one sentence, "You should have never let me in." That was the breaking point. This wasn't just betrayal anymore, it was psychological warfare. And she was playing it like a pro. I didn't know where she was, or what she planned next, but I knew one thing for sure, she wasn't finished. Not yet. I barely slept that night. I sat on the edge of my bed, clutching my phone, reading that message over and over, "You should have never let me in." My heart raced with a mix of fear and disbelief. I knew Erica had done damage, but the message made it clear, this was far from over. She wanted me to feel this. To break me, piece by piece. And the worst part? She was succeeding. The next morning, I went to the police. I brought the printouts, the phone records, everything I'd saved. They listened, nodded, asked questions, but in the end, all they said was, "She lived with you voluntarily, right?" That one sentence crushed me. To them, it was just a messy personal issue. Not a crime. Not something they could act on. They told me to change my passwords, contact my bank, and move on. But how do you move on when someone's still watching? Later that day, I got a call from my boss. Cold and clipped. He said he received a complaint, anonymous, but detailed, accusing me of harassment, of violating company policy, even stealing funds. I couldn't even respond. I knew it was her. I knew it. She hadn't just vanished. She was working behind the scenes, feeding lies into every part of my life. And someone was listening. Then came the second twist, the moment that flipped everything on its head. I got a knock at my door. It was a delivery guy with a package, no sender listed. Just my name. I opened it cautiously, and inside was a flash drive. No note, no explanation. Just cold plastic sitting there like a trap. I plugged it in, heart pounding. There were photos. Dozens of them. Screenshots. Videos. All of me. In my apartment. On my laptop. Sleeping. Cooking. Some from angles I couldn't even figure out. That's when I saw it, behind a vent in my room, tucked in the corner of the frame. A small lens. A hidden camera. She had been recording me the whole time. My stomach turned. This wasn't just about money or revenge anymore. This was obsession. Control. And whatever she was planning next, it wasn't over. It was only getting darker. I stared at that flash drive, hands trembling, stomach churning. She had been watching everything, my private moments, my calls, even the nights I cried alone thinking I was safe. The fear turned into anger. Enough was enough. I spent the next 2 days doing what the police hadn't, tracking every detail, connecting every digital footprint. I reached out to a friend who worked in cybersecurity. We scanned the flash drive for metadata, found timestamps, file origins, even GPS data. One of the photos had coordinates buried deep in its data. A location. Just outside the city. With no time to waste, I drove out there alone. It was a rundown cabin on a dirt road, half hidden by trees. It looked abandoned, but my gut told me otherwise. I walked around the back and saw a faint glow coming from the window. Someone was inside. I didn't want to do anything reckless, but I had to know the truth. I quietly called the police, reported suspicious activity, and waited in my car nearby. 15 minutes later, they arrived. What they found inside changed everything. Erica wasn't alone. Inside the cabin was an entire setup, multiple laptops, phones, ID cards. But the real shock was the man she was working with. A name I recognized instantly. Aaron, my ex-business partner. The same guy I cut ties with 2 years ago after discovering he'd been misusing company funds. I thought I'd left that all behind. Turns out, he hadn't. Together, they had built a plan to dismantle me. Erica was the bait, gain my trust, steal my data, then let Aaron destroy what was left. It was all personal. They wanted my name, my network, my ideas. And they nearly got away with it. They were both arrested for identity theft, wire fraud, and invasion of privacy. The case made headlines for a few days. I got my accounts back, my job reinstated, and slowly, my life began to feel like mine again. But here's the twist no one saw coming. Weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was just one photo, me, standing in my living room. Taken yesterday. So maybe this story isn't over after all. My hands went cold as I looked at that photo, me, inside my own apartment, taken just yesterday. It felt like the air was sucked out of the room. I checked every wall, every corner, every vent again. Nothing. No sign of a new camera. No strange sounds. But the fear wasn't about the lens anymore. It was the realization that someone, somewhere, still had access. The invasion wasn't just physical or digital, it had left a mark on my mind. I wasn't the same person who opened the door to a friend in need. That version of me was gone. I filed another report, upgraded all my security, changed my locks again, and installed a full surveillance system. Still, every time I walked past a mirror or turned off the lights, I wondered if someone was still watching. But eventually, with time, things began to feel normal. I reconnected with Mia. We talked honestly, for hours. She told me she received those cruel messages and believed they were from me. She had tried to reach out, but Erica had blocked her number from my phone. That truth hit hard. But in the end, it helped both of us heal. We decided not to get back together, but we forgave each other. That was enough. I found a new job at a smaller company, started rebuilding my career slowly. Trust came harder now, but I was learning. I also began volunteering for online privacy awareness programs, because no one deserves to feel the way I did. Betrayal leaves invisible bruises, especially when it comes from someone you let into your home, your heart, your life. What happened with Erica and Aaron taught me a painful truth. Not everyone who shows up needing help has good intentions. Some people walk into your life with a smile and a plan. But I also learned that even when everything falls apart, you can get up. You can start over. So if you're watching this thinking it could never happen to you, think again. Because sometimes, the biggest threat doesn't come from a stranger. It comes from someone who says, just for a few nights, I've got nowhere else to go. And by the time you realize the truth, you might already have lost everything.